So it's the final day of NATO meetings with defense ministers discussing how to best deal with Moscow and increase arms shipments to Ukraine. Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg pledged the alliance's full support for Ukraine, saying it will stand with the country as long as needed.
We will stand by Ukraine for as long as it takes. We will step up our support, and in particular we will provide more air defense systems to Ukraine. Also welcome the very strong message from the international community yesterday. The vote in the UN was a clear condemnation of the illegal annexation of Ukrainian territories and a clear call on Russia, President Putin, to reverse these decisions and to respect the territorial integrity of Ukraine.
And Germany sent the first of 4 promised air defense systems to Kyiv on Wednesday. It says this is the most modern weapon it has in its possession and will improve Ukraine's rate of shooting down Russian cruise missiles. On the same day, French President Emmanuel Macron promised to send air defense systems and radars to help protect against drone attacks. Well, to discuss this, Hada Abdelhamid is in Kyiv and Natasha Butler is at that meeting in Brussels. Natasha, let's start with you. It looks like Ukraine's demands are being partially met, at least. More weapons are on their way to Ukraine.
That's right. Britain and France both promising more air missile defence systems for Ukraine, as well as other weaponry and ammunition. That adds to those pledges already made by Germany, the Netherlands and the United States. We've also had here at NATO headquarters a bit earlier, NATO defence ministers for 14 member states, including Germany and Belgium, signing a joint declaration to agree to jointly buy more air missile defence systems. Now, at this stage, we don't know whether that would be to replace some of their dwindling domestic stocks as they send some of this weaponry to Ukraine, or whether those would be to send directly to Ukraine. But either way, what it does show is a real sense of commitment to try and support Ukraine and also to answer Kyiv's demands, because, of course, Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, has been saying over the past few days that what his country really needs is an air shield, particularly in light of those multiple missile strikes that we saw a little bit earlier in the week. Well, Hoda, you're in Kyiv. What are people there saying? Do they feel that Western powers, that NATO, are doing enough to help Ukraine?
Well, people always say that they thank all the countries that are supporting Ukraine. But, you know, you just mentioned earlier this week when there was more than 80 airstrikes launched against Ukraine, including here in Kyiv. And people always wonder why the skies haven't been closed. That's a demand that Ukrainians have had ever since the very first days of the war. President Volodymyr Zelensky having repeated that many a time, but certainly now getting air defense system is the priority, because if there's one military up that the Russians have at the moment, while they're losing ground on the battlefield, while they're trying to regroup and bring all these mobilized soldiers to the front lines, well, the one advantage they have is that they're able to strike Ukrainian cities as far as Lviv, which is by the Polish border. So certainly more air defense system is something that would be very welcome, and especially in cities like Mykolaiv or Zaporizhia that come, I would say, on a daily basis under missile or rocket attacks. Now, this, with also the UN resolution that was passed yesterday in New York calling for the territorial integrity, or condemning the annexations that took place a couple of weeks ago, announced by the Kremlin, claiming that now Donetsk, Lugansk, parts of Zaporizhia and parts of Kherson region were within the boundaries of the Russian Federation. That would be welcome too. But many people will also tell you here that the UN has had many more resolutions in the past about territorial integrity, mainly in 2014 when it condemned the annexation of Crimea, again in 2020 when it called for all the Russian troops to pull out from that peninsula. So UN resolutions are good, they're symbolic. President Zelensky talked about it, saying that it was a historic move. But again, there is frustration there against the UN. The Ukraine has been asking over and over again to actually expel Russia from the Security Council, something that is not on the table at the moment. But put those two together, more pledge of air missiles, air defense system missile, and UN resolutions, I think Ukraine does feel the support of the international community.
Hada Abdelhamid reporting from Kyiv. Natasha Butler in Brussels. Thank you to you both.